Hi guys, I keep saying Brexit was twofold. One aspect was sold to the public as a way to deal with immigration, while the other was about stripping away legislation the UK had helped write and adopt as a member of the European Union, be it employment rights, protections for the environment, or standards. Rishi Sunak, I believe, backed leave for the latter. I don't think immigration was ever something he cared about. He's a disaster capitalist and wanted the likes of the safeguards put in to protect against another banking crisis removed. Now, he was challenged by Beth Rigby about Brexit during Wednesday's debate, and Rishi pretty much fell apart here.
Which is legal migration. For many years, people were frustrated that immigration kept going up. It was the number one reason for voters in the run-up to the EU referendum, one of the main reasons for Brexit. That's right, isn't it?
Immigration is too high.
No, one of the reasons people voted for Brexit was to take back control of our borders, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, let's just go and look at the record. Because what was the total net migration figure into the UK in the past 3 years?
You all have it there, so...
But the audience, do you want me to tell them? Because they won't.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head for the past 3 years.
It's 1.9 million people in the last 3 years. What was the total net migration figure in the last 3 years running up to the 2016 referendum when we had freedom of movement? Do you know it?
I don't have it offhand.
It was 836,000 people. And I'm sure many people in this room would have voted for Brexit. 70% of people in Grimsby voted for Brexit. How do you think they feel about that when they hear that net migration into this country has more than doubled in the last 3 years from before we left the European Union?
Yeah, I'm sure it's too high. I've been very clear that it's too high. And I'm sure people feel frustrated and angry about it.
You were the original Brexiteer, weren't you? Well, you were one of the...
Yes, I did support Brexit.
You were always a Brexiteer.
Yes, and I believe that was the right decision for our country.
Frustrated, cynical,
absolutely.
betrayed?
I just said I'm sure people feel frustrated about that. And again, the numbers are too high. Of course they're too high. What I can tell you is what I've done since I've had this job, and that's last year. Yes, and the numbers are too high. I'm not making any bones about that. The numbers are too high, Beth. But what I can tell you is what I've done in the time I've had this job is already start to bring them down.
Oh my goodness. He's completely clueless. But as I said at the beginning, I don't think he cared about immigration. That was not his primary concern when he supported Brexit. He's a disaster capitalist. I think he wanted protections taken away. You know, caps on banker bonuses. That's what he wanted removed. In order to achieve that, we needed to leave the European Union. That was his idea. Now he's hitched his wagon to immigration, and he's going to be overwhelmed by it. Not by immigration itself, but by the concept of, well, we need to bring it down. You know, I don't believe for a second he cares about immigration, but he realizes that a significant portion of his party are obsessed with immigration. And he knows that if he doesn't deal with immigration, or he's not seen to deal with it, then it's going to sink him. And he opens himself up to the attacks from Nigel Farage and Reform UK. Like, he couldn't answer this question. Why has immigration increased post-Brexit? You are the original Brexiteer. He tried to deny he was connected to Brexit, and then he had to admit it. He was like, oh, what are you talking about? But you campaigned for Brexit. Now, once again, I don't believe he cared about immigration, but immigration was the driving force, it seems, for voters to back Brexit, to leave the European Union, bring down immigration. Immigration is a massive problem. This is the rhetoric that was being pumped into people's brains in 2016. If we bring down immigration, we can have a shorter NHS waiting list. If we bring down immigration, there'll be higher wages. If we bring down immigration, class sizes will be smaller. It was a panacea. Whatever the problem, leaving the EU would deal with it. Bringing down immigration would deal with whatever problem society was facing. That was what was those lines were sold to the public. Now, Rishi Sunak, as a Brexiteer, can't escape that reality. Like, once again, his motivations were separate to that, were different, but he can't escape the reality that Brexit has resulted in higher net migration. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Most reasonable people don't have a problem with migration, because if there are jobs available, people will come to do them. But the Conservatives and the right are obsessed with bringing down immigration. And Rishi Sunak, as a Conservative, has to go along with that. And he's left in a position where he's trying to ignore the reality of net migration increasing. Yeah, well, it's too high, we're going to bring it down. But what do you think drove that rise? What's responsible for that? Brexit. But he can't criticize Brexit because he's a Brexiteer. You heard him there saying, well, I still support Brexit. It was the right thing to do. But in regards to immigration, how can you justify that? Now, Farage and the right will say, well, because the Conservatives didn't implement Brexit right. But the Conservatives can't say that. They can't say, well, Brexit hasn't been implemented correctly, because they have been in charge since 2016. An absolute bin fire. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.